So much shit. So much shit. So much shit happened.
So much shit. What was the shit?
We arrived on the planet
Yeah.
Akaha.
Hekatha.
Yeah, that.
Hakatha. So we arrived at Hakatha, snuck around on the beach, found the crashed ship belonging to the name of the race, but they're typically kind of like marauder type bad dudes. But we went towards the direction we believe to be the crash site area, and then past that into a like confusing network of tunnely things. Found the beholder, or not the beholder, found a beholder and some what are they called? Observers?
So you found some spectators and gazers.
Yes.
You did not meet an actual
Spectators,
beholder.
gazers. You're right. The gazer, and then was there. There was some gazer there, and then the spectators floating around with him, or with them, and then there was a giant creature whose name I also forget. I'm terrible with names.
Orog.
But they were, yes, but they were trying to not haggle, but like they were arguing over who had the right to the actual crashed thing that had the adamantium in it. And instead of any sort of diplomacy tactics, we did a fucking smash and grab, like busted in, grabbed it, fucked off, jumped on the ship, and left. It was flawless, really.
The particular brand of chaos we can expect with this group.
Yep. So none of us, none of the characters available at the time had any social skills. So we decided smash and grab was better.
We don't need that.
I'm sorry, Mandy, it has thus been decided by the entire group that your character is the sole face character and there will be no face tactics used when you are not here. That is what ended up being decided.
My excuse was that my character dumped charisma.
Yeah, also say, you want Neverlear to talk to anybody, he's going to talk with a 9.
My character is essentially a doomsday prepping mute moth.
Oh my god. Like, wait, are you mute? I thought you could talk.
No, I mean telepathically, but not.
Oh.
Just clicks with the mandibles.
Yeah, like, how many of us have 9s as our charisma? What'd you expect from us?
Neverlear's got a 50-foot fly speed and a 9 in charisma. That is smash and grab if I ever fucking saw it.
Yeah, picks up the fucking robot and runs. Or sorry, flies.
Yeah. That's what the plan was. It was Buttons doing force pull, just grabbing it like a magnet.
So that is what happened. You guys did successfully manage to get the adamantine meteorite. You got a little bit of something off of the crash, a couple of you. And you all managed to make it back to the tyrant ship and to relative safety, looking back over your shoulder and seeing a frankly worrying number of creatures just pouring out of the mountain as you flew further and further into the sky. And for the little bit more conscientious of you, there's that little tingle in the back of your mind of like, yeah, that was a mountain of death we were in. You just dipped our toe in and then ducked, and you managed to get out without losing anything in the process. But that was a mountain of death. But as you all lift off and start your journey away from Hekatha, there's a little bit of tension for a couple of minutes as you break through the atmosphere and the planet starts to fall behind you, and you're waiting for Saratha to get far enough outside of the planet's range to be able to launch into full speed. And only when you all feel that familiar kind of shift and warp around you of this tyrant ship pushing into the full Spelljammer speed do all of you kind of breathe this sigh of relief. And even Tarto, who is with Micken and Fred, trying to, tie up the ladder and everything that they use to get all of you onto the ship. Even Tarto, you can see her shoulders just kind of drop like a half inch as you all manage to get away from Hekatha. And she turns and kind of looks expectantly at all of you and just lifts her chin slightly. So, mission accomplished.
Here you go.
She will take the bag and pull out the meteorite and begin to kind of examine it. And you all can now get a little bit better view of this kind of blue sheened dark ore that makes this meteorite. And you all have seen mines before. You've seen even precious stone and metal before. But this one is just strange. It is almost perfectly smooth all the way around, where you can tell it has been burned and warped by its travel through the galaxy. And there's no hard edges to it. There is no rough patches. Just a smooth, almost cross between stone and metal exterior. And Tardo just examines it. You see her kind of tapping it once or twice with a fingernail, kind of checking it. And then there's a little nod. And there's, surprisingly for Tarto, a kind of a little bit of a smile. Well, this will certainly do the Academy nicely. And I imagine all of you will be getting your piece of this as well. It's a good job. And you see Tardo kind of look back outside of the opening for this cargo area. And you can't see Hekatha anymore. You just kind of see the whirling rainbow of color and mist that is wild space. And they nod. And we get away from that place. Frankly, gives me the creeps every time I have to go near it, so good job on surviving. Now, this should be the easy part. And she walks away. You all are underway, heading back to Torril. Is there anything that any of you want to do? No?
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Just exhale loudly.
Yeah. Well, Button does not exhale loudly, for Button does not breathe. However, she mimics the movement.
Slow deflation, little tiny mechanical whir from Button.
Yeah, sees Nevalier do a deep sigh, see her just like immediately after mimic and just like lean shoulders outward and back and then sag.
Well, good job, team, hey?
Nevalier tilts his head and just goes, I think we did a pretty good job, all things considered.
Yes, I agree. Considering that death was an option, I think we did great.
Want to comment on that, but Nevalier does not know what to say. Just like, True. Just nods his head.
I did also get some neat rocks, so that is also a plus.
Oh, well, delightful, I suppose.
Nod.
Turn towards Angela and say, like, do you have any observations or critiques about the mission? Maybe some thoughts on performance? Captain?
We've worked pretty well together as far as things go. So, everybody tuck in and get some rest.
Very well. And Nevalier will turn and just kind of just do a vague shooing gesture and then start to walk out of the room, just like, it's time to chill.
So, the next several days are, for the most part, relatively peaceful. The ship stays course. It's a course that you almost exact same course back as to Hekatha. Saratha continues to swap out with Button and Micken for flying the ship. During that time, you all are able to get just a little bit more comfortable around Saratha and Tarto. They both seem to kind of be deflating now that mission objective has technically been achieved and they are heading home. Saratha very clearly is a very voracious dragon chess player. And literally any time that they can manage to grab any of you to play chess, you are playing chess with Saratha. Quite often, not necessarily with a choice, but it's better than Tarto still continuing to make everybody run drills and perform exercises routinely and on schedule. But, so which of the two do each of you gravitate more towards, Tarto or Saratha?
Saratha.
If it's to
Hekwe's
avoid
gonna
work.
play chess.
Yeah, if it's to avoid work, Trixie will play chess.
All right, Night Crew is going with
know.
Saratha.
I don't know if Nevalier would gravitate more towards one or the other.
Which one are you paying attention to more?
Angela, I think I said Tarto.
Probably Tarto.
Mandy? Is Mandy alive?
Oh,
Mandy is typing.
I don't think we have a choice for drills.
Hey, there is no choice, but which one are you paying more attention to? But that'll
Okay.
evenly divide the party, which is good, because all of you have a special little note that you can now make. Saratha has all of you playing dragon chess, but also seems to get bored after a point, and starts teaching all of you how to count cards as well. So,
Oh.
Amy, Cody, Iris, the three of you, anytime you are gambling with cards, you will get a +1. Joe,
Nice.
Mandy, Piper, Tarto, in amongst the drills, reveals that they have a very old tool used by Spelljammers that a lot of the academy and other places have kind of phased out, but they still have it, and it's this deck of cards that are silhouettes of various monsters and creatures that are native to wild space and beyond. So, all of you, if you are trying to roll to identify a creature in space will get a +1.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
So you guys can all mark that down as some extra little tiny bonus that you get through this week or so of interaction that you have with Tarto and Seritha.
Could I also, just for the mechanical flavor of it, say that would be where Nevalier gets any sort of monstrous understanding of space creatures for the sake of his Bloodhunter feature?
I could say that you probably already have a little bit, but this is where you start getting some more detailed knowledge.
Okay, cool.
And about halfway through your trip, much the same time as last time, you all are moving through a heavily dense and asteroid-ridden part of space. And you all know that this is coming up logically, but still the sudden slowing of the ship itself and the feeling of wild space kind of calming around you is still just a tiny bit jarring. It's not like you're being knocked off your feet. It's more like a very strong, very distinct stop, or stop in an elevator. And there's a moment or two of silence afterward, and then you all get on the sending stones. Seritha coming through. Looks like we're heading through the asteroid belt again. I would appreciate a little bit of help if y'all could move to the holodeck. Just keep your eyes out for something I might miss. The ship is a little bigger than I necessarily care to fly most of the time. And while Seritha phrased it as a question, Tarto takes it as an order and immediately chases all of you towards the holodeck. And I will move back here. So all of you will be able to position yourselves at the various openings of the holodeck. Who wants to be where? And it's just these 4 openings.
Which one? Oh, those. Okay.
Big ones.
All right. Fuck it. Button. Over there. Did I roll a d4? Yes, I did. I see Nevalier staring at the wall.
So, since there's more than 4 of us, we'll have to double up on some, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's 6 of us, so 2 of them are going to be 2s.
I'm assuming that Nevalier would be next to either Angela, unless Angela had wanted him to be elsewhere. He's going to assume first mate position.
Any of the openings would be you're essentially staring out the window and helping maneuver the ship at any of the openings, Mandy. So you do have to decide on one.
Yeah, Seritha is in the chair.
Yeah, Seritha's in the chair, but you're being sent to essentially look out the window to help the truck move.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Aha.
So we have Angela and Nevalier at 1, Taylor and Tekwe at 1, Trix at 1, and Button at the last. Okay. So, as all of you kind of move towards the holodeck, and position yourselves near the large openings on the side of the Tyrant ship. And again, I'll move you guys here for a second so that you can kind of see the outside for a moment. So you're staring out these giant holes in the side.
Ooh.
Ooh.
You see that you're moving through this asteroid field, and there's this moment where you're staring out at it, and it gives you almost a deja vu of the field and wreck that you were in the simulation. But as you look around, there's not nearly anywhere near as much debris. However, you realize that the asteroid field that they sent you into in the simulation was actually fairly mild. It was the debris that was causing most of the danger to the ship. This asteroid field, it reaches as far as your eye can see in either direction. And you can see asteroids that are almost the size of like a tiny piece of sand even, just whipping by faster than you can track fully. And the size ranges up from there to some of these asteroids being 2-3 times larger than the ship that you're currently on. And all of them are moving in different directions. Some crashing into each other, some barely glancing by. You can see those are usually the ones where the shatter of rock from scraping sides creates all these little tiny shards that go flinging in 100 different directions. And even standing on the holodeck, fairly protected by the ship, all of you get pelted every so often by tiny little rocks. Not enough to truly hurt you, but enough that it's like, yeah, this isn't necessarily pleasant or fun. And as you're all looking out, you can see that Sertha is trying very, very hard to maneuver the ship to be close enough to the larger asteroids where there is some protection from others that are flying by, but also walking that delicate balance of not getting too close that a shift in the asteroid will immediately hit the Tyrant ship that you're in. And there's even moments where Sertha, the experienced Spelljammer that you all know them to be, even stops the ship completely and actually waits and calls down, asking who sees what to double check what he is sensing through the Spelljammer. Double check where the placement of things are. First, I would like 2 perception checks from Taylor, Tekwe, and Trixie.
2 each?
2 each.
Let's go. High roll.
Okay, Taylor, dirty 20. Okay, not bad, y'all. So, as they are moving, there's another instance where the ship slows and stops, and you can tell almost instantly, Taylor and Tekwe, what is bringing Sertha pause. It is, rather than a standard giant hunk of rock, it is actually a massive piece of ice flying by that's huge but also, logically, you realize probably not quite dense enough to make sense to Seartha in the moment, surrounded as the ship is. And the two of you are able to very quickly signal that there's something, there's something on this side, there's something on the port. You need to maneuver the ship in this general direction or further away from it. And as soon as you say that, the ship begins to turn and rotate out of the way, getting a little closer to the giant asteroid that is currently sitting by. And as the ship rotates, Trixie, you see something out in the distance, even further beyond the giant chunk of ice. And it glints and shines for just a moment before it disappears. And you kind of squint and lean forward and maybe get a little too close to the edge of the massive hole. Just to the point where you can feel if you lean just a little bit further, you'll start to tumble down the incline towards the outer edge. And you see the glint again. It's the bow of a ship. And it's very clearly trying to stay out of view.
Heads up, guys. We may have company.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
And as you say that, Tarto chimes in across the sending stones. What exactly do you mean by company?
I think I see a ship out there. And it's, I don't know, it's acting odd. Seems like it's hiding or something. Which, I don't really take as a good sign.
And you just hear some, what you're fairly certain are, unpleasant grumblings in Dwarvish from Tarto. Angela, Tegway, perception checks.
Just one?
Or, I'm sorry, not Tegway. Angela and Nevelier.
Oh.
Oh.
Uh, 17 and 6.
That is 6 and 13.
We are evenly matched, Dixie.
Weird.
As you all hear this from Trixie, Nevelier and Angela, the two of you just kind of lean a little bit further out to start trying very hard to keep an eye and see if there's anything else. And neither of you see anything, but both of you leaning out feel a slight change of pressure. Like something big has gone by. And a low growl just seems to slide by the ship. Button, perception.
Just one?
Just one.
Did we get a long rest, by the way?
Yes, you have a long rest.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's been a week.
Yeah, I just want to double check. Let me see, 17.
Just like Angela and Nevelier, you feel a shift in pressure. And then suddenly you are buffeted out of the way by what at first seems like warped space before materializing and landing on the edge of the hollow window before you. You all see a Star Lancer with a rider on its back. And as the Star Lancer settles, it lets out another loud, suddenly growl into the ship, calling attention from all sides, and all of you turn. You can see across the void to see Button. You are lucky that you were the small one, because when you got pushed aside, you were able to get to essentially a little nook that prevented you from falling into the center of the ship and down.
Whew.
And you are barely on the edge as this thing leans further in, and you can see its pointed head and its sharp teeth. And on its back, the rider sits tall, a lance in hand, and pulls off their helmet, and you see a female Githyanki.
Oh, shit.
Who just looks across all of you with this considering look at first. And then you hear Button at first, a clearing of the throat. And then the rider speaks up just loud enough to echo across so that even Taylor and Techway can hear. The very clear, where exactly is Cricklet?
Whoa, what do we do?
We go.
How do you want
fetch
to play
the
this?
captain. We go fetch the superior. One moment, then I will call for our commander. I'm gonna call Tarto and get her down here.
Mom, help!
I hate the superior officer right now. Make her deal with it.
So you call. What exactly are you telling Tarto to figure out what her response is gonna be?
I'll tell her there is a Githyanki down here demanding answers about Cricklet.
What are your orders?
Also, what do you want me to do?
There's this moment of pause, and then you all have these sending stones, so you all hear Tarto's response, even though Angela was the one that called her. And you just hear this slightly incredulous a Githyanki just materialized on the ship. And you hear Saratha almost a beat later of not just a Githyanki, it's a very sharp-toothed friend, I think. And then you hear more cursing and muttering in Jorvish, and you all get the very distinct impression of okay, Tarto is starting to move now. And Tarto just says, keep him busy, keep him talking until I can get there. Because Tarto is starting on the very bottom of the ship. And it'll take a little bit of time to get up to the holodeck.
Yeah. With that, Angela says, I've contacted our commander, and she's on her way. Please hold. Begins playing elevator music.
I have far vision. I don't know how far back this Githyanki is riding from the ship. But I want to keep an eye on if she has one hand on the rein and one hand like at her side looking for a sword or a gun or a wand or some shit.
She is carrying a spear in her hand.
Okay.
She has kind of like the image. She has a large spear in her hand. She took her hands off the rein to remove her helmet and kind of set it in front of her. So she's kind of like still holding helmet and reins in front of her. With the very large spear still held in the opposite hand.
Is there any other rider within eyesight for me?
No, all you can see, like, Star Lancers are only big enough for a single rider.
I mean, other Lancers on other beasts.
No. Any of you that would like to can roll a nature check right now or an animal handling check.
Oh shit. Can I take my passive?
What is your passive?
It's 10 plus your mod, right?
Yes.
18.
18 for me as well.
Am I allowed to roll with advantage because of my blood huntery stuff?
Star Lancers are not aberrations, but you do get the +1 from...
Oh yeah, 19 for me then.
Okay. So, let me see here. Angela, Button, Taylor, and Tekwe. The four of you remember a little bit about Star Lancers from the Academy. Star Lancers are almost always associated with Githyanki. There is nobody else that has been known to be able to ride or even where to find Star Lancers. However, there is one tactic that makes Star Lancers pretty notorious across the galaxy. They have the ability to turn themselves and their rider invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And Button, remembering that, all of a sudden you realize, that's why there was that weird warping of space right before I get pushed down. And Angela, as you tell this writer that you've summoned your superior officer just to wait, there's this kind of sneer on her mouth, and she leans forward over her helmet. Is now kind of locked onto you as the first one who has spoken. Really don't need to wait very much longer. Just tell me where he is.
We're not really authorized to give that information. Please hold.
And the sneer goes from amused to annoyed.
What she means is we don't have that information. It's kind of above our pay grade.
And Button, you can see, and Nevalier with your far sight, there's no movement that she takes, but there's a very distinct tightening of her posture and of her hand around both the reins and the lance as she looks towards Trixie. Above your pay grade. Care to explain?
We are but students. We do not have the authority to know such things yet.
So you don't know where one of your fellow crewmates is? He was on this ship.
Not for a long while.
Point, he's been gone for a little bit over a week.
Angel just kind of sighs.
And Button and Nevelier, the two of you roll me insights very quickly.
17.
Damn. Joe, your computer's not having you tonight.
Yep.
The Button, you can see as you're trying to kind of right yourself and also stay clear of Starlancer mouth from where you are. You get the very distinct impression that this person does not believe anything that any of you are saying right now. And as she leans a little bit forward again, the kind of not dorsal, anterior fins of the Starlancer that are also kind of propping this creature up where it's sitting shift and starts moving a little bit further in. Its topmost wings furling back as it seems to start to climb through this opening fully into and towards the center of the ship. And the Githyanki is very clearly used to this creature and moving with it. They stay almost perfectly upright as it shifts and moves. And Nevelier, since you said you were keeping an eye on this, you see that the helmet is starting to be picked up and in the motion of being put back on.
Okay.
And this Githyanki just looks around again. A week, please. He's on this ship, and somebody better tell me now where he is.
We've already told you. It's your choice whether to believe us or not.
I want to use Detect Magic while she's still visible.
Okay.
See if that weapon's magic, if she's got any magic items that are outwardly exposed on her.
So, let me see here. You do not see any magic items on her. Well, you don't see any magic items on the Starlancer, and you're kind of like focusing on the warrior themselves. At first, it does not look like they have any magic. But then, as you're kind of glancing over, you see a flash of magic on their wrist as they put their helmet back on. And it looks very distinctly like transmutation magic of some sort.
Okay. So Nevelier's gonna do that kind of placating hand gesture, like hold one hand out and just be like, "We're not lying to you. We are not authorized to know where Cricklet went. If you give us just a minute, you can talk to our captain."
You can try to ready a spell if you're concerned. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see what this lady is gonna do here.
I know the components I think the components are verbal and somatic. Can I get her with a hunter's mark? My once a day hunter's mark.
I will say if you want to try and do that as a ready, you can.
Yeah, I would ready. So, like, if... If she tries to cast a spell, I want to hit her with hunter's mark at all.
Okay. So I want Nevelier, as the one that just spoke, to roll me a persuasion.
Let's see. Yep.
And as you try this to keep this warrior calm, they have now moved. I'm going to shift you around just a little bit. You see that the creature has almost fully moved past the narrowest part of the hollow. And is now starting to unfurl its wings again fully in the center of the ship. And Button, there is an almost curious distraction that hits you as this creature passes you, and you realize that there's the tiniest little hooks on the ends of the wings for this thing. And you realize, oh, kind of reminds me how a bat might move across stone and hang from the ceiling. And I'm sorry, the furious typing just got me all of a sudden.
Sorry.
And this warrior just sneers ever so slightly and shakes their head. Well, if you won't tell me where he is, I'll just find him myself.
We have no reason to hide him. If he was here, we'd tell you where he was.
You can try one last persuasion with that, Trixie.
It's Tarto. How long does it take to get down the fucking steps?
You forget it took several hours to traverse the ship fully because you're going up and along rope ladders.
I don't have anything else to add to this, so it's just a flat roll.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. No offense.
Remember how earlier we talked about how no one really has a high charisma except Taylor?
Sorry, I'm no help. I am totally lost.
There really isn't much context to this.
Yeah, there's no context to it. What
There
you
is
see
no
is what you
context.
have on the tin.
Yeah, like we all have the same amount of context, including you.
My
There's
brain's
no-
not working either, so I can't think of a lie or can't think of anything. I'm just.
There is no lie. We don't know where he is.
No,
He's not
I'm trying
here.
to think of some lie to tell them to stall for time, and I can't. So
All right.
No,
Like,
she
how-
just wants to fight, so.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I'm just sitting here.
And I
waiting
am
for-
readying a spell as well, too.
So,
Well, if she just wants to search the ship, she's not necessarily attacking us. We don't have to fight. We could just let her run around the ship and just look.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
just-
just
If
be
that's
like,
what she's
let's
doing.
escort you to the captain and meet halfway. Just you though.
yeah,
You can parlay with the captain.
as soon as Trixie speaks, Githyanki looks towards her, now helmet fully on again, and there's just this little huff, and the Starlancer takes off into the middle of the ship and begins a spiraling search pattern, going past all of you and going all the way up to the top of the bell, heading towards also where you know the entry to the command deck is.
I'm
Okay.
gonna fly up to the command deck, cause concern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just keep updated in real time what's going on.
We all have one of those sending stones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nevalier is going to fly in as the least aggressive way possible, try to fly up next to the Githyanki. Like the rider.
You get those of you that are trying to fly and keep pace with this thing. The Starlancer is not able to move particularly fast within the ship because it is a confined space. And neither the Starlancer or the Githyanki seem to be particularly perturbed until you get within kind of wing reach. And at that point, the Githyanki will immediately whip her spear around to clear you away.
Okay, so Nevalier gets it's like a don't get too close kind of gesture.
Yes. It's very much
Okay.
if you get any closer, she is perfectly willing to stab you.
And Trixie is not trying to keep with the Githyanki. She's literally just going to basically the person who's driving the ship to make sure he has someone to defend him in case it gets weird.
So you're heading up to Sertha.
Yeah. I don't care about her.
Nevalier is going to hold one hand up that is empty, and then hold up the other hand and hold out the sending stone and say, "This will let you talk directly to our captain. I want to give it to you so you can ask them whatever you want to ask about Cricklet." And he just holds his hand out.
The Githyanki kind of pauses, and you see this very, very slight shift in posture, which the Starlancer immediately furls its wings, and you hear the sharp cracking of them hooking its claws into the side of the stone and kind of dropping to this upside down position with the rider still on, but very much looking like they're hanging off the back of a giant blue bat at this point. And the Githyanki's head just tilts ever so slightly, and there's a single hand held out for the stone.
Nevalier nods, and he's going to toss it to her.
She catches it and examines it very, very closely before tucking it close to her ear under the helmet. And you all get the kind of muffled voice of the Githyanki across the Sending Stone, repeating her question. Where is Cricklet? And you get this slightly... all of you would recognize very, very, very slightly out of breath, but otherwise fully composed voice of Tardo. And who exactly wants to know? And there's a moment where you don't think that the Githyanki will respond. And finally there is a very careful answer. Captain Quitru. And you will tell me where Cricklet is. And there's a faint noise across the Sending Stone in response that you all very distinctly know, as Tardo probably has a cigar in her mouth and is biting down on it, which is a habit you guys have discovered over the past several days, whenever Tardo is either frustrated or thinking very deeply. And then there's just this very measured... Cricklet was discovered to have caused some trouble, and he was sent back to Torril. And those of you within eyesight of this rider see a kind of twinge and twitch in their body, which immediately sends the Starlancer shifting, and you hear that deep guttural growl echoing through again. But the rider stills, and as the rider stills, Starlancer stills. He's on Torril, you say. There's just this affirmative grunt from Tarto. You sent him back to the academy. Good. And you see the Githyanki take the Sending Stone out from under their helmet and look at it for a second, and then toss it back towards you, Nevalier.
I catch it and immediately stick it in a side pouch.
And without another word, this Githyanki leans completely over, almost flat along the Starlancer's head, and the thing lets go and just drops straight out of the ship. And as it is just passing the very bottom of the ship, you see a warping around it, and it completely disappears.
Nevalier is still holding his breath. Are we going to get attacked? Is the question.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it seems as though we've been left alone.
Yeah, how long? Like, just hold still for a minute.
There's a moment that passes, and then a minute, and right around the 2-minute mark is when Tarto finally pops up through one of the access shafts, looking around. And you can see that Tardo, over one shoulder, you're not quite sure where she pulled it out of, because you've never seen her with it before. has an absolutely massive gun slung over her shoulder. And as she kind of looks around, you see that her hand is kind of reached back, vaguely like ready to fully grasp the gun, but does not actually grab it. And then looks towards everybody else. And there's just this slow breath out. Well, that's gonna be a problem.
Well, are we allowed to know why?
Well, if they knew that Cricklet was on this ship, there's only one way for them to know that he was here. Somebody in the academy knows. And she just kind of like nods towards Angela. Which means that's also probably the person that rigged Ryback 7.
That would connect a bunch of things together, wouldn't it?
And there's just this grunt from Tarto. And ever so slowly, the ship starts moving again. And there's no other interactions that happen within the asteroid. Nobody seems to pop onto the ship. Saratha, being able to sense anything that touches the ship, does not alert anyone. But as you break through the other side of the asteroid belt into open wild space, readying to move again, those of you that look back out towards the asteroid can see 2 damselfly ships maneuvering amongst the asteroids. They don't seem to be breaking through to follow, but very clearly they were following you through the belt itself. And then Saratha punches all of you through to the full spell jamming speed, and the asteroids are enveloped in a swirl, colors and light. And you're underway towards Torril again.
Okay.
Congratulations, you guys avoided that fight. That was going to be an ouchie.
Yep.
Yup.
There, no violence. No, thank you. I'm good. She seems
feel a little
scary.
bad. I feel a little bad for Cricklet, but I also they kind of dug their own grave a little bit with that one.
Yeah. Oh my god. Is Micken alive from that panic attack?
Micken, Trixie, when she popped up on the command deck, would have seen Micken standing beside Saratha, just kind of like worrying his wand, like his little wand between 2 different hands, just kind of like twisting and turning, like almost looking like he's just about to break it, and then remembering that shouldn't break this, and then it's like shifting it again, and then starting to twist and turn it again, and almost breaking it. And Saratha, for their part, still very calm, almost amused. Just very much this vibe of like, it's been a while since I've seen anything this entertaining.
Oh boy.
Trixie would have tried to calm Micken down, put one hand on his shoulder, kind of thing.
Sarah, Jesus fucking Christ.
Micken would have like accepted the comfort, but then like 2 seconds later, brain would have kicked into motion and then would have very distinctly and without apology stepped in such a way that they were behind Trixie, and Trixie was between them and the hole.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's like, comfort. Wait, shield.
That's why she went up to the command deck in case things got hairy. Protect the driver.
Unfortunately, no way for the rest of us to fucking fly up there. But goddamn, fucking Tartar with a fucking giant gun.
Jealous on a giant gun.
I know, right? Same.
Tarto's weapon is essentially D&D's shotgun.
Hell yeah. Whew. That was anxiety-inducing.
Cut the tension with a knife.
Yep. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
Now you guys can do, if there's any other RP, or if you guys want to pester Sirtha or Tarto with questions, you can.
So many questions.
So many questions, but you're not asking them.
Okay.
I assume that neither of them, because like the obvious question is like, did you know that person?
Sirtha, or not Sirtha, like, well, I guess if you guys all went up to the command deck, you'd get both of their responses. And neither of them seemed to have any fucking clue who they were. Very clearly. You just get this, like, from Sirtha, just like the, no, not really. And then from Tardo, it's just like, fucking pirate is who, probably, I guess. That's what pops up sometimes. But, question is, are they pirates that were hired by Vokath, or are they pirates because of Vokath?
Well, if there's not a lot of evidence to say one or the other, but I would think because they know about Cricklet, and if you're right, because they know about Cricklet, then they're getting information from the inside. It seems like they're likely associated with Vokath, and judging by the way that they behaved, it seems like they're mercenaries. So I would say hired, but there's not much else to really go off of.
I mean, like, does their relationship really matter? We know that they know each other or we assume that they know each other in some way. Whether they're that close or not doesn't change the fact that they're after Cricklet.
Does it change things for Cricklet? No, but knowing how they know would mean that we can have some idea about just how big all of this actually is.
If they're sympathetic, it could mean that there's a larger force at play here. If they're just hired mercenaries, then it's more than likely that they're working with a decent sum of money, but not a decent sum of people. But that's also more conjecture.
You can see through all of this, Tarto has completely smoked one cigar and is already moving for another one. And Tarto doesn't seem to have very many nervous or anxious gestures. They seem to be generally pretty experienced and kind of worn by the job. But there is every so often this like little tap 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 of the heel. And you're not quite certain if it's anxiety or another kind of deep in thought gesture. But Tardo's mood is very clearly souring about the entire situation. Saratha, still kind of placid and not seemingly overly bothered by anything. Just leans a little bit further back in the spelljamming chair, looking around at all of you. And there's just this little tiny smile on their face. Well, if nothing else, all of you got a nice, fun experience with an actual pirate. Congratulations, you survived.
Is this something that happens often?
Pirates? Absolutely. Now, to any individual ships, there's ships that may not encounter pirates for years. There are some unfortunate enough to encounter them nearly every time they leave. Depends on what part of space you're in and what you're carrying usually. How fancy your ship looks. Or where you choose to fly. Asteroid belts are something of a notorious thing for harboring pirates, but it's the fastest way to and from Hekatha. In fact, trying to avoid the asteroids to get home would have taken us an extra 2 weeks. And when that's the math for most places and you're worried about your air, most people don't have much of an option.
Nevalier will turn to Button, and he starts to say something, and then there's kind of a hesitation, and he looks over to Angela, and then looks back, like, kind of looks over to Angela for this guilty, like, my bad, and then turns back, or, like, continues his thought and says, Button, maybe make note of that name. Captain Critchu, I believe it was. You never know when we might run into the same pirate again, and maybe we could have a little bit of friendlier banter with them. Kind of keep things civil.
Well, was Captain Critchu their name or their captain's name? Were they the captain? Or were they speaking on behalf of their captain?
They were their they were the captain, at least that would be my understanding. And if they weren't, we at least know that their captain's name is Kitru. So, at the very least, we could talk to their captain if that was not already them.
I will write that down.
I hope she wasn't actually the captain, because, like, she was not someone to talk to. Way too jumpy.
Well,
More
it's
like
piracy.
a patient woman used to getting what they want.
It was a very interesting creature, though.
And Nevalier will turn to Tarto and, with his hands behind his back, nod his head a little bit and say, thank you for coming down quickly, and I apologize for tossing my sending stone to the pirate. It was a risky maneuver, but I was hoping it might keep things from escalating too quickly.
Tardo nods slightly. Well, it's not something to apologize for. If you can avoid a fight out here, it's usually worth it. Not every crew has somebody that can heal, and not every crew can get to somebody that can heal if they end up on the bad side of things. This ship would probably survive an all-out fight, but others wouldn't either, so... Figuring out a way to diffuse a bomb is a good idea.
Nods, thank you. And to just take a step back. And then give a big, like, okay.
Mimics motion.
One day, Nevalier will put together that button is mimicking his breathing pattern.
It's not going to be for a long time. Even though his passive perception will only go up, he's just not going to notice until like Button does it in front of him.
I mean, Button's not hiding it.
Like, oh yeah, but it has to be like
right next to him.
Yeah, it'd have to be like in my head. I imagine they're constantly side by side whenever the mimicking happens.
Yeah. So everyone else sees the Button just mimic Nevalier's big breaths of sighs of relief. Button does not breathe.
Well, as everyone starts to kind of wind down from that encounter a little bit, Tardo just kind of nods their head and looks across all of you, like each of you up and down. Well, we at least know that somebody is going to cause problems. Or is wanting to cause problems and knows where we are going to be, more than likely, on our trip back home. This point forward, we're going to keep eyes on the holodeck. Rotation, even when we are in spell jamming speed. Have at least one person on each side, keeping an eye out and hopefully spotting something and giving us a little bit of a warning if anybody else decides to pop in. We'll try to contact the academy as soon as we are close enough. You can see Tarto kind of glance towards Saratha, and Saratha just nods slightly. And alright, bye Mandy.
Bye, Mandy.
Bye, Mandy.
Bye, Mandy.
So Tarto takes each of you and puts each of you into rotations. The two of you on each rotation. Including Fred and Micken, much to the unease of Micken, who you see turn a little bit green. And all of you for the following few days will be taking your turns on the holodeck, trying to make sure that there's no other surprise visitors that might be too small or too well cloaked for Saratha to pick up. And because of that, Tardo eases off on some of the drills and training that's happening to make sure that all of you are awake and ready for your various rotations. And think here so that I can set up one or two things really fast. We'll take a 5-minute break. Boop. And we shall come back in a bit.
Okie dokie.
Dilute the map. It did.
Yeah. Oh, is Joe here? Oh, Joe's typing.
I am here.
Oh. I hope you don't mind button mimicking Nevelier.
I don't mind. I think it's really cute.
Okay.
Especially because they're so differently shaped. Because Nevelier is like a taller, more lithe, bird-shaped creature, and Button is a small, metal, heavy mushroom.
Yes.
So good.
Mm-hmm. Everyone will get their turn of button mimicking them.
There we go. I had to complete.
Finished.
Bless you.
Bless.
Thank you.
For those of you that were not in call, Glass Onion was so good. 10 out of 10. Do recommend.
Oh my god. I just watched that today with
Me
a bunch
too.
of friends, and that
Same. Oh my god.
dude. That movie fucking wow.
It was so good.
I like to think we're all even more validated for loving it because Ben Shapiro hates it.
I literally was just reading that. Like that's why I brought it up, because I was
He's
just reading that he hated
mad. He's so mad.
Someone shared something. It was like he's just still mad about his character portrayal in Knives Out, and it showed the little fucking right-wing child. Yeah. That one.
Oh man.
Yeah, I will say that I am kind of glad that that was the character that died, so we didn't have to listen to him anymore.
Also, in the flashback bit, Dave Bautista with hair is incredibly cursed.
Absolutely.
He should not be allowed to have hair ever.
How many are there here? Hold on.
There's only one.
Yeah, you wish. You really, really, truly wish.
No, look at the module. It says one. Yes, that is exactly the vibe. Iris.
I was trying to find the one where James is being super James like, but I couldn't find a gif of it, so oh, here's one. No, that's not a gif.
Kirby.
Oh, you don't.
It's not a gift, but it's still cute.
Yes. Everyone will get their turn.
I don't remember James having a Mime Junior.
He did for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
I think it was after the Wobbuffet? After or before? I think it was after.
It was after.
definitely
Wobbuffet
after.
was
Iconic.
Johto.
Yeah.
It was iconic too. For
Yeah.
each region, he had a Pokemon that followed him around and incessantly annoyed him. Because
Yes.
like for the original arc, it was Weeping Bell, or
Yeah.
not Weeping Bell. The one that's after Weeping Bell.
Victory Bell.
Yes.
And I know there was the Caravine, what it's called, at one point.
I must have just missed this entire season.
Dude,
Are we talking
there's
about
so
Pokemon
many
randomly?
seasons. There's so many seasons.
They're sharing Pokemon gifts in Discord.
Gotcha.
I was saying Button as Mime Jr. to Nevalier as James. Or it's the opposite point.
Yeah.
You get my point.
What?
Nevalier has James energy.
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't see it.
No.
But Angela does have Jessie energy.
Doesn't
Not that one either.
Gotta think, yeah, no.
No.
Angela
What?
could have
She's
Jessie
so
hair.
smart.
True.
That's true.
But Jessie's more spiteful and like outwardly mean.
Yeah.
I forgot to make
Like Angela gets frustrated, but is not outwardly just spiteful to people.
I guess I never really saw Jessie that way.
I don't blame you. I was too busy staring into her eyes. Too.
Yeah. Whenever Button spends time with someone, they start mimicking their movements.
Button's secretly a mimic all along.
Did it work? Yes, it worked. Okay, there we go. Roll 20, catch up with me. Cool. Okay, and I think we are back, because I think I have heard everybody.
Yes.
So, the next several days pass relatively uneventfully. You slow and pass by another couple of large asteroids on your way to Torril. And even once, you all are brought up to the holodeck to watch a massive cloud of space eels move by. They're far enough away that they don't mess with the ship, but Saratha figured that you guys might want to actually see it in real life, since you went through it in the simulation, and stopped so that you could all see the massive creatures in the distance and the lightning jumping between them. Eventually you all make it back to Torril without seeing anything else that is particularly concerning, but the closer and closer to Torril that you all get, the more and more amped up Tarto and Saratha seem to become. Even Saratha starts becoming just a little more curt in their responses. And once the Tyrant ship is in orbit over the planet, it doesn't take very long for the flighty foundling to again dock with the ship, and a small partial crew helps to unload everything that you all brought onto the ship and drop off several other graduates and senior cadets to look over and investigate the ship a little bit more closely now that they have had some time to talk to Wizpop and find out a couple of secrets about the ship that they were not aware of before. The Foundling takes you back down out of wild space and into the atmosphere of Torril. And again, you all are just kind of struck by the sudden lightening of air as you enter in the atmosphere and realize just how stale the air on the ship had become in the 2-3 weeks that it took to get back home. By the time you all reach the academy proper, it's turning into evening and the sun is starting to set. And as you all move off of the Foundling onto the dock, Tarto just looks over each of you and actually reaches out to Techway as the one closest. Just kind of pats their shoulder with a single hand and very kind of curt but oddly almost camaraderie-laden gesture for Tarto. Well, you all deserve a little bit of rest. Get down to your dorms. We're going to have a talk with all of the officers. More than likely, they're going to want to talk to each of you tomorrow at some point. But we'll call you when we know exactly what we need you for. And when we need you. So just take a breather and tomorrow morning go about your chores and duties as you normally would. Try not to gossip with any of the other cadets while you're here. At least not until we have settled a few things. And with that, Tarto and Seritha very briskly move off towards a separate entrance to the dock that leads towards the officer's deck and officer's quarters. And all of you, I can actually move you guys over here. All of you are free to move about the academy as you'd like, or just go straight to your dorms.
Okay.
Where is Wizpop?
Where is what?
Yeah, where is Wizpop?
Where is Wizpop? Return the auto no.
Are you going up and asking somebody for that, or are you just going to start ping-ponging around the academy trying to find him?
Walks up to nearest officer, just like, hello. Just, hello. Where is Wizpop?
This kind of lean, gruff-looking human kind of looks down at you. And there's this, like, furrow of the brow for a moment. And there seems to be a click in their mind of, like, oh, that thing. And they just kind of gesture vaguely downwards, which the entire academy is below you. I think that they're talking about the little gold coppery thing, right?
An autognome, yes.
He. I think Mr. Blip took him in and has been putting him to work on occasion in the store.
Thank you. Turn on heel, back to the group. I have been informed that Wispop is most likely with Mr. Blip.
Do you want to go see Wispop?
Yes.
Well, I suppose you're more than welcome to, and turn to look at Angela. Or not. Are we dismissed for now?
Yes. Feel free to take a break. That Angela just turns around, goes get some food.
You know, we're not on a ship anymore. We can just do what we want now.
Who is that directed towards?
Nevalier.
Nevalier turns.
Trixie has two of her arms behind her head in like a relaxed, like, finally kind of chill out, casual motion, like kind of aura.
Nevalier, like, he turns to you and says, I know, but I want to give respect where I believe respect should be due. And I don't want to give the impression that the captain would not be worthy of my respect. Because soon enough, I imagine we'll be on a ship for a long time. I don't expect this behavior from you or anyone else. It's something more for me. But I do think that it would be helpful to have this sort of attitude and mentality when on the ship. To your point.
I mean, fair, but like, do you really think Angela's going to be our captain permanently? Honestly, I think you're better suited.
Open my mouth and just hang for a second. Angela walked off, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is like the only reason she said that.
I mean, like, I get being all callous and stuff about Ryback, but and it was good to call the people in charge, but honestly, blaming someone so hard like that, I don't agree with personally.
I can see your point. The situation was messy, but thankfully it has been resolved. And hopefully Mikan hasn't any particularly hard feelings. I'm glad at least that the captain was able to apologize for targeting him so voraciously.
Actually,
was not
apologize,
intended.
right?
She apologized.
But it was
she
like,
said, "I'm sorry."
But it was half-assed, right?
I rolled a 20 on my deception.
Yeah, she rolled very high on deception and nobody was able to beat her, so to everybody else, it may have been slightly weak by what you would want from her, but it was genuine all the same.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess, but like, still.
True.
Words are words.
This is true. Actions do speak louder than words, but regardless of any of that, I'm flattered you would think that I'm captain material in any capacity. Just like, eyes scanning the floor. He doesn't really know how to finish that thought. He just kind of trails off.
If Trixie notices, she's just kind of shrugging, like, super casual about this. Like, even her words about Angela, they weren't trying to be like spiteful or anything. They're just like she's acting like she's just talking about common stuff kind of thing.
Okay, very cavalier about it.
Yeah. Wait, what does that mean? I'm gonna look that up.
Nonchalant.
know, right?
Casual.
Yeah. She's very nonchalant and casual.
Yeah. Well, regardless of any of that, I let's enjoy this respite we have.
Yeah, for however long it is.
That's precisely why we should enjoy it now. Do you think... Where did you think Tarto got that weapon? And do you think we're allowed to get one? Like, casually walking away, just like, I want a gun.
Maybe you can ask, well, I forget his name.
Blip, the store
Blip,
owner.
There you go. Yeah. Maybe you can ask Blip or something. I mean, Button, you wanted to go down there anyways, so...
Yes.
And I've got nothing better to do, so mind if I join you?
Yes. Oh, no, I do not mind. Let's go, quickly.
Oh, okay.
Trixie starts walking.
Nevelier about faces and starts following them.
Angela went off to get food, correct?
Yes.
So
Trixie will will turn her gaze slightly in her casual stance towards Tekwe and send him. Want to come with?
As soon as you started walking, Tekle was following.
We're walking, and you like turn to say, "Hey, do you want to come with?" As he's literally following us.
Correct.
And Trixie didn't say that out loud, but it was the mental discord thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
she just smiles.
Button is all but fucking dragging pant leg. Let's go. We can talk while we walk.
We're coming.
You really miss your friend, don't you?
Yes.
Not that I blame you.
Oh.
So, Angela, as you head your way down, because you will get to your destination first, as the cafeteria is the same level as the dorms and is a little bit higher up. You realize that as you're kind of walking, this is something all of you notice, as you're heading further down into the academy. The academy had already cleared out a little bit when you all had taken off on this journey. That's over a month ago at this point. Because of what happened in the simulation chambers. A lot of people had already left or decided that they didn't want to continue with the spell jamming in general or at the academy itself. But as you all move through the academy and are kind of looking around, there's a distinct shift in the atmosphere. There's far fewer cadets wandering around. And no new cadets that you can see. As far as any of you could tell, from the moment you entered into the academy, about every 3 or 4 weeks there was a new shipment of cadets that would come in on the ferry and would sign up and try to successfully make it through orientation. Not all of them stayed, not all of them were able to get through, but there was always a good handful of fresh faces. Everybody that you pass, you've vaguely recognized as other spelljamming cadets that are of your year, or of your group, or the ones that came in just after you, or sailors that are graduated and just past you. Nobody knew. And in this thinning crowd, when you look into rooms as you pass, there's still the students that are hunched over reading in the libraries and working through problems for a class or a lesson. But there's not the same kind of loitering that was happening in the hallways of just, gossiping and taking their time, walking from place to place. Every movement that seems to be going on is more with a purpose. You realize that though you're not certain how much of your journey has made it back to the academy, that some of the details has spread, and there is a noticeable tension that just kind of hangs on the very edges of things now. Angela, as you make it to the cadet floor and walk into the cafeteria area, which was Ryback's domain, essentially, the entire room feels just a little quieter. It doesn't feel as warm as it did before. It doesn't hang heavy with the smell of food. The line of various dishes and things and the pots that you can see from the tables don't all seem to be full even. Just enough to make sure everybody has the food that they need, but not the surplus that Ryback always seemed to maintain. And you can see in one corner of the cafeteria there has been a memorial placed for him. There's a couple of flowers and things around. Nobody's hanging over it or standing near it really anymore. You realize it was probably placed very shortly after you all sent his body back. And as you enter into the cafeteria, the handful of cadets and sailors that are inside turn and look at you, and almost all of them just kind of like track your movement through the cafeteria, not hostilely, but curiously. You can hear a couple of murmurs. That's the one that went on Tyrant ship. That's the one that was there when Ryback died. Wonder what she knows. I wonder what she can tell us. But nobody seems to be quick to try and come get information out of you. But you almost immediately know that you and your crew are the gossip of the academy right now. The rest of you, as you head further and further down to almost the very bottom floor of the academy, you make it all the way to the stores. And inside, you see the counter that you all went to on your very first day or two of academy, buying your supplies. And you see the familiar bowler hat wearing Autognome moving very rapidly behind the counter, one place to another, shifting what looks like inventory. And though you can't see behind the counter fully, for every box that Blip seems to be moving over to one side, you see a couple of coppery golden digits wrap around one of the boxes, slide it off, and then you hear the distinct metal footsteps of somebody running away, and then coming back, and you see the little golden digits again.
tap, tap, tap. Taking on her. Hello.
And you hear this kind of whir of Blip extending the pole for his single wheel that he rides around on to make himself just a little bit taller so that he can lean over the counter and see you properly. And you just hear this, Button. Good to see you're back.
Hello again, Mr. Blip.
Hello. And he just kind of looks away from you and looks behind you where the rest of the group is and reaches up and very kind of like tips the bowler hat towards all the rest of you in greeting. Anything I can do?
Nod at him.
Yes. I would like to speak to Miss Pop.
Whiz Pop. Oh, yes, of course. And you see him kind of like turn towards one of the doors back to the storerooms. And there's a little kind of tinny whistle. And you just hear Blip say, Whiz Pop, come back up here. And there's this quick metal feet on stone and wood. And then you see the very top of Whiz Pop's pointed hat coming across above the counter, and then there's this sound of a little jump, and Whiz Pop has propped himself up on his front hands, kind of leaning over, and sees all of you, and then looks down and sees Button, and just pushes himself over the counter on top of Button.
Like the crashing of metal on metal.
Yeah, I guess they're because they're both small.
Like someone throwing a fire hydrant at another fire hydrant.
I guess Button's going down.
There's a brief moment where, like, I hold out my hand and it's like, they'll be fine. It's just a nasty sounding crash.
Someone's excited.
I can't tell which one is more excited.
Hug.
Either way, I think it's cute.
You get an excited little hug. And then you hear kind of the gears and whirring of something inside of Whiz Pop. And then you finally get this little tinny voice coming through. I finally fixed my voice box.
That is great.
Nevalier's eyebrows go up. Just like, oh.
That is great. Congratulations.
And he nods slightly and looks towards everybody else. Thank you for helping me.
Of course, absolutely. Any time we find someone in need, I would hope, extend a hand.
Yeah, it's no problem at all.
And
Glad you're feeling better, though.
yeah, he just kind of taps at where you can see that the voice box that he is referring to has kind of been attached to his throat area, and it's very clearly not original. It is a slightly kind of gray, dull metal just sticking out of his neck. And as he taps it, his voice changes ever so slightly as he speaks, kind of pitching up and pitching down and pitching up until it settles back in. It's not that good, but it's better than what I had, I guess. Did you guys, is everybody okay?
Bit of an ordeal, but, we got through it.
He was gone by the time the No, never mind.
He knows about.
Yeah, the death of Ryback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ran into a very tense situation with the pirate, but everything turned out fine.
We have all returned safely.
And he nods and seems to start properly dusting himself off. And looks around. They said I could work here to earn my keep. So I've been helping Blip. And motions towards Blip, and Blip just kind of waves a hand, has dismissed this conversation as not important and not pertaining to them, and has gone off to continue their work. They're still in earshot. They just kind of wave in y'all's general direction and continues. Looks like sorting some, what you assume to be shipment sheets, and getting them in order and marking things off.
Are you enjoying the work?
There's not clockwork terrors.
That is a plus. I do not like those things.
And he nods very firmly. And Whizpop, like some auto gnomes out there, does not seem to have much in the ability of being expressive with their face. It seems to be very much kind of welded in place. But you get this very distinct, like, yeah, like, anything was better than that. Anything is better than that.
Button nods and then does the shoulders back and then shoulders release of like a big sigh as they nod.
Not any noise.
No noise, no breath, because they don't breathe, but does like the big breath, big release body motion and nod.
You get this like very slight tilt of head, which is a little bit more prominent because, again, very pointed hat on top of Whizpop's head. And then Whizpop also mimics that gesture.
Nevalier just turns to Techway and Trixie and just like raises an eyebrow, like, what are they doing? What is that?
Techway squints, but then gives a shrug.
Trixie was looking at Techway and looks over to Nevalier when he refers to her and is like, wait, what? Huh? What happened? Sorry.
Just puts a hand on his face.
Button will do the gesture again to teach Whizpop how to mimic taking a deep breath of relief.
The silent learning of auto gnomes is what is happening.
No, like this. Shoulders up, down.
Yes.
And Whizpop again like mimics the gesture much more, like less mechanically, like popping into like one spot, popping into another spot, a little bit more fluid. And then their head straightens up and they kind of look towards Nevalier then. Did you guys get what you needed?
More or less.
Yeah, we finished the mission.
Oh.
Nevalier here is looking to buy some interesting items, huh?
If I can afford it. But I would like to see if there are some available options.
And when you say that, that's about when Blip's like, this conversation now pertains to me. And you see them very kind of pointedly turn their head in your direction and shift in a kind of like go on gesture. Not heading in your direction because you're not necessarily talking to them directly yet. But if you're paying attention.
Cavalier would be, because he's not explicitly here just for Button, or not Button, Wizpop, but he will, seeing that he's got the attention of Blip now, say, "Oh, looking for some sort of firearm that might be useful in a pinch."
And never, like, Mr. Blip just kind of nods, and you can see the metal mustache that is on Mr. Blip's face kind of shifts slightly one way and the other in this, like, back and forth, almost cartoonish, side to side, mouths moving one direction and another. And he holds up a finger and then disappears through the doorway. And a moment later, you hear just the scrape of wood on wood as they drag a box behind them back towards the behind the counter space.
Gun box.
And they're like, I guess it kind of depends on what you're looking for, but we have a couple of things. And he will show you. Yeah. You guys have gotten a fair bit of gold through jewels. What is your total gold right now, Joe?
160.
160.
I still had that $50 voucher, if only, because I think most of the firearms that are kind of worth a damn are closer to 300.
Mm-hmm. Double checking the prices on a few things really fast.
Angela has her voucher if you want to come ask for it.
I was going to say, if Button sees that you need money, Button would freely give, because Button does not really need anything.
Equay would also give you all of their gold.
Oh. Y'all don't have to.
So just
But I will accept it.
window shop, and we can notice that you need more and be like, oh, here.
There's the hesitancy, but I'll take it and just very graciously nod.
I forgot that I like this thing. So,
What thing?
it is a homebrewed set of firearms. Now, which ones would he realistically have? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh.
This is going to be like Nevelier's time investment.
Okay. So, the Mr. Blip will kind of look at you, kind of size you up for a second. And again, this store that they have for the academy is kind of small. It doesn't have any magic items that you've been able to find. In all of the equipment that they come in to sell, they're good quality equipment, but for the most part, they're basic. The most interesting thing seems to be that they come from different places. So, like, there'll be swords that you can buy and acquire, but it's swords from all over the coast. And very clearly, some with etchings from Baldur's Gate, some with hilts that are very clearly made in Neverwinter all over the place. And in a very similar fashion, the handful of guns that Blip kind of puts on the counter for you to look at all seem to be very distinctly simple in nature, very rudimentary. You have been exposed to a few guns at the Academy, because essentially every GIF at the Academy carries a gun of one form or another.
Yeah.
And theirs always look extremely well taken care of and are clearly some of the most advanced guns that you would have ever seen. These are kind of rudimentary by comparison, but clearly functional and well taken care of.
Okay.
And they put 3 guns on the counter for you to look at. The first is a pistol, very simple flintlock pistol, that functionally, so that you are aware, it's 50-150 range and does 1d10 of piercing. However, it has exactly 1 shot.
Ah, it's the flintlock kind of.
Mm-hmm. It costs the when you look at it, Blip kind of glances over it, tells you that it'll cost 210 gold.
He just nods, and
Then
you said you had 2 other?
The other 2 that he places on the counter, the first is a blunderbuss style gun. Larger gun with a almost funnel shaped end to it, designed to fire in a wide spread. It has to be preloaded, where the pistol you can load with a bonus action or action. In the middle of a fight, the blunderbuss takes a full round by itself to load.
Ooh. Ooh. But the
it
damage
does,
though.
It'll do 1d8 in a 20-foot cone.
Jesus.
And it costs 75 gold.
Okay. And the piece de resistance?
And the final one is considered a heavy weapon, and it is a 2-handed weapon. It is in, I don't know how to pronounce this. I like it, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Arquebus?
The arquebus? Yes, that is correct.
Arquebus. There you go. And this one is designed according to this set of, so this one is also 75 gold. Will do 1d8 piercing damage and has a range of 80 and 320.
Hell yeah. And how much for this rifle? The arquebus.
75 gold.
Well, if the small pistol is 75, is the small pistol also 75?
The blunderbuss is also 75. The standard pistol, which does the 1d10 piercing, is 210. So you have a 210 and you have 2 of them that are 75 gold.
Ah, okay. I want that arquebus because it's a really big, cool, long shot style thing. But Nevalier doesn't have proficiency in firearms yet. So he's going to actually buy something that is a little bit smaller and more manageable, which would be the pistol.
The expensive one?
Oh, that one is the more expensive one. I'm
general for you.
The most expensive one is the most manageable, but it also has the highest damage and can be used more easily in combat. The blunderbuss and arquebus are going to be more unwieldy in combat. It's going to take longer to load them and handle them. They do less damage, but the blunderbuss does a cone damage in front of you, and the arquebus has a longer range.
Okay. Does the arquebus have to be loaded for a full round like the blunderbuss?
No, it does not. However, it does have the heavy and two-handed properties.
Gotcha. Then I'm thinking arquebus because it is cheaper.
What? Do you want permission?
Yeah.
Just get it, my brother in Christ.
No, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm getting the arquebus because I can afford that one without having to ask for handouts.
So, we are a team. We can help each other. Also, Button has no need or desire to really buy anything that's not random items to clog up an inventory. Thank you for spelling. Like,
Wait, hold on. How much? I'm 50 shy. I will take 50 of whomever is willing to donate, if that's the case.
To get the pistol?
To get the pistol. Because the pistol is mechanically stronger, I think.
Button will throw 50 gold at Nevalier.
Very, very, happy smile with the kind of furrowed eyebrows. Just goes, thank you. And he slides that with all of the rest of his gold over for the single shot, flintlock style gun pistol.
Okay, so you buy the pistol, 1d10 piercing, a range of 150.
Yes.
It is a one-handed weapon. And it's technically considered I don't want to say it's light because I don't know. I need to double check the stat block. But definitely one-handed.
Nice.
Download this and keep this. Anybody else want to do some shopping really fast at the store?
I do. Right after Trixie sent this mental thought to Techway, she'll step up and be like, "Hey, Mr. Blip, you got any fancy bows or arrows or anything like that?"
Blip just kind of looks at you. Again, there's this side to side twist of mustache. And I was not planning for shopping day, but okay, let me go look.
Listen, you knew I want to check on Wizpop. You put him in the shop. We're already here.
What? Because I'm assuming this is for Techway is what you're doing.
Yep.
Cody, what are you currently using for Techway?
A longbow.
Longbow. So, Mr. Blip kind of see that mustache side to side, and then they very quickly put all the the two other unbought guns back in the box and roll it back into the storeroom. And they come back out a second later with 2 different bundles of arrows. And they simply kind of shrug slightly as they're putting the arrows onto the counter. I don't think we have any bows that you wouldn't already have, but we do have these arrows that might be interesting if you want to take a look. He holds up one. These, and it's a set of 10 arrows, are made by some of the finest elven bowers on the coast. Used in part to pay for a shipment. And functionally, these 10 arrows, so it would be something that if you want to have, would have to be tracked and a number kept on them. We'll add...
Would it work the normal way of ammunition where you can recover like half that you used?
No.
So like once you use it, it's gone?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll add +3 to your damage. Each one that you shoot is +3.
And what's the other one over there?
And the other ones that they hold up is also a bundle of 10 arrows. These come from some people in Baldur's Gate that are trying to mess with a couple things. Can't say that I necessarily think it's particularly useful, but it might work. It's a set of 10 arrows that seem to be kind of weirdly jury-rigged. And you look at towards the end of the arrow, towards the fletching, and see a couple of lines on the shaft. And should you successfully hit with this arrow, the force of the impact will cause shards of the wood to splinter off from the end of the arrow and hit up to 2 targets that are within 5 feet of whatever you're hitting for the same damage.
Oh, that's some Hanzo like splitting arrow shit.
And how much for each one?
And it looks at the bundle of the base plus damage. So this one, make it worth it. Say 50 gold for the entire bundle. This one, if it works, well, if it works, you have to tell us that it works, so that we can tell the guys that made it that it works, and we can get more. But since I don't know if it's going to work, probably 50 as well.
Could I take both for 80?
And there's just this very clear look of like, please.
She just gives a smile. I'm fine.
Heckway will step forward and pull like a tiny little coin purse out of the fur and pull out 50 gold and point to the splintering arrows.
Okay.
No. I want to buy him first.
Heckway goes to put coins on counter and looks.
Flip just
buy them.
Looks between the two of you and just holds out a hand and looks away. Somebody give me the coin and I will give you the arrows.
I take out my money.
Why not one
I'll
of you
buy
just
the splintered ones.
Just one of you buy one.
And I will buy the damage ones.
Okay.
The Nevalier like gives takes a step back and gives Button a little elbow bump, like to get Button's attention, and then we'll point to the two moths kind of behind their back. And he makes a hand gesture that I imagine Button does not understand, to kind of indicate like if there's some like relationship or flirting or something going on. He's like, are these two doing a thing right now? I don't know. I'm not sure if this is what I'm reading. And he's just silently silently gesturing with his hands.
You're doing the finger in the circle.
Button just tilts head and then straightens head and then reaches into their bag and pulls out the Moth Chronicles and hands it over to Nevalier.
He just takes the book and then just blinks at it for a second, and like looks at Button very concerned.
Nod.
So, Cody, you can mark down that you have 10 arrows that will do +3 damage if you successfully hit. And then you have 10 arrows that will split to up to 2 additional people within 5 feet of your target and do the same damage.
So when Techway tried to pay for it, Trixie gave Techway a very hard, like, glare and was thinking very loudly. Let me do this for you, damn it!
Techway will bow graciously.
Good. That's what friends are for. And she wraps her arm around Techway. Happily. Shoving the arrows into their arms.
And Blip just kind of like watches all of this going down, like these two bickering but not moths. The very confused Aarakocra. You see him kind of like jack himself up a little bit higher again, lean forward a little bit, look down at Button. And are you wanting anything?
Oh. I did not think of this. I know one thing I would like. And Button reaches into their bag. And they pull out.
Join us.
I imagine that Button is still next to Wizpop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wizpop's just hanging out with you right now.
Yeah. Fucking vibing. Button pulls out 2 of the fucking collection of rocks that they got from Hikatha. And just like, I collected some pretty stones from Hikatha. And I wanted to give you one and give one to Wizpop as well.
Give one to Blip?
Yes.
Wizpop will take his stone very quickly and just kind of like look at it for a second, and then you see him like pop open a little compartment in his chest and shove it inside and close it and just like arms crossed over compartment. It's his rock now. And Blip slowly reaches out and takes the other one. And there's this like little tilt of the head. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for accepting the rock.
He nods. And you can see that he seems to like consider, what do I do with this for a second, and then he just like sticks it under his hat.
Nod.
And he looks towards Wizpop and looks across all of you guys again and just shakes his head slightly. Well, I guess you have earned a little bit of time off, Wizpop. Have fun with your friends. If you all are done, I need to get back to organizing everything. Just got a new shipment in today.
Nod.
Nodding, but like not looking at him, reading the Moth Chronicle.
It is Button's notes on moth behavior, quite literally just writing down everything they have observed from Trixie and Techway. Because you gotta remember, Trixie, Techway, and Button do not sleep.
None of them sleep.
None of them sleep. That's why I call them the night crew.
Oh my
None
god.
of them sleep. And the moths get weird at night.
Only the chronicles will tell the truth.
Yeah. It's just, does Button have this? Because I think it would be funny.
He's just trying to parse the information. Like, I imagine there's several observations that when he reads it don't make any sense to him. So he rereads it and he's like, what does it mean for like increased ocular activity around light source? He takes the pistol and will stick it into one of his leather pouches, which he'll turn into a holster later.
What you got there, Nevalier?
Looks up from the
Anything
book.
interesting?
Looks at Trixie, looks down at the book. Are any of the observations noted by name?
Yes, they are.
He reads a couple of the Trixie ones and looks back up to Trixie.
Pulls fruit out of a bag and starts chewing on an apple.
As a preference for fruit, specifically mangoes.
Just hand the book, like close the book and then point to it, looking at Trixie and say, do you know about this?
Does Trixie know about it?
You know it's a book that you see Button writing in all the time. Because Button is constantly writing it while near Trixie and or Techway.
Trixie looks at it and tilts her head a bit. Isn't that like Button's journal? Why do you have Button's diary? Button, do you know about this?
It's not. He just turns to Button and then gives the book back and just goes, that is an interesting read. I don't know what to do with anything I read in there. I'm going to go now.
You good?
Just like he looks up at Trixie again, and there's a look of like, there's stuff I don't know about you, that there's stuff I now know that you do and have done that I didn't really want to know, but now can't unknow. And he just like, I'm okay. Everything's fine. Just weird. I think sleep would be good. Starts backing up. Thank you again, Button.
You are
Not
welcome.
for the book, but for the spare money.
Oh, you are welcome for that as well.
About face?
Yeah. Sorry. If you have any notes you would like to add to the book, feel free to let me know.
I will keep that in mind.
Blink. Nod. Puts book away.
Okay.
Well, time for bed.
Yeah.
I think.
Sounds like the end of the day.
Yes.
Unless Angela had somewhere specific she wanted to go other than just food.
No.
Okay.
Just food.
So you all make your way back to your dorms, but before you enter the main dorm area, you're all kind of stopped and redirected by a sailor that just kind of is being very polite. Like, so you guys are very, very close to being done. And there's been enough openings at the academy. While you were gone, you all got updated to a sailor room. So, surprise! And he, like, redirects you down a hallway to one of the rooms where the actual graduates, the sailors, are allowed to sleep. And it is a room that is still large enough that it contains all of your beds, plus about 3 more. And all of your things have already been moved and shifted to said room. Still sharing a down the hall bathroom area with all of the other sailor rooms on the hall. But designed to give you all a little bit more privacy and a little bit more space than the dormitory bunk beds do. And, like I said, all of your things have already been moved there, and you also see that Micken's things have been moved to one of the additional 3 beds. And the other 2 still remain empty for the moment. And by the end of the night, Micken also kind of slips his way in to join and settle down. And you all have a peaceful night of sleep. And are woken bright and early before sunrise as the academy kicks into gear, and immediately told by an officer that what your chores for the day are, and essentially you have been given the massive chore, but also perhaps one of the slightly less frustrating chores of cleaning and tending to the flighty foundling, since it has been back and forth in space several times over the past few weeks. And you all are set to swabbing the decks and checking the rigging lines and making sure that it's all in one piece. Keep going here. And the flighty foundling has been pulled up to one of the side docks. Not the full sky dock at the very top of the academy, but one of the side ones along the column that makes up this place. And tied down and secured. And as you all step onto it, you all get this deja vu and realize, oh, this is the ship that simulation was based off of. The hammerhead that you flew in your simulation is identical to the flighty foundling. And as you all get to work, you heard at breakfast, well, I said as you get to work, but you all heard at breakfast before you were sent off for your chores much of the same kind of gossip and murmuring that Angela was acquainted to when she walked into the cafeteria yesterday. And even here on kind of one of the more removed docks, there's occasionally a cadet or a sailor that walks by on a mission with some duty that they have to carry out, kind of pauses and squints and looks at all of you curiously, but then continues on their way, clearly not wanting to get in trouble for not doing what they were supposed to. And like all of you to go ahead and place your tokens on the ship where you think your character would start into their chores.
So in order, it's the highest floor, the mid deck, and the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
Trixie would take the highest point possible to start working.
Button would take the lowest point possible to start working.
And just so that you all are aware to keep in mind moving forward with ship maps, because you guys are going to see a lot of ship maps, this highest floor is really trying to show you this upper deck here and this upper deck here.
Gotcha, okay.
This right here is exactly the same as where Angela is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is the same plane.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a 15-foot increase, but it's showing you, because you would be able to see all of this at once.
Yes. So just think of like any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies where they have to go up and down the steps to get to like where the wheel is and everything.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Alright. So, you all are working. First couple of hours seem to go fairly quickly. It's a big ship, so it takes a lot of cleaning. However, it has not been through anything too major. So, it's relatively easy cleaning and maintenance. However, you all have to be excruciatingly thorough, because you know that if Tarto's the one that comes through to double check your work and you've forgotten something, then you'll have to do the entire ship over again to correct the one or two small mistakes. And 1 hour goes by, 2 hours go by, and suddenly, Tekwe, Angela, Trixie, you all see a shadow passing over the deck that is much larger than any of the others that have passed over. Through the morning, there's been a couple of Spelljammers that have come in and out of the sky dock at the very top of the academy, and their shadows are small and move by quickly because of how high up they are. This one almost covers the deck entirely, and as you look up, you see a damselfly ship hovering above you. And a moment later, 2 lines drop down from the ship, and down come 2 GIF, landing on the top decks. And I will resize these in a second. Ooh, let's not do that and move the entire map.
Is it 1F or 2?
Hmm?
Is it 1F or 2?
2.
Thank you. Oh, man.
This isn't good.
Nope. This one, and then... There we go. And as soon as the 2 of them land on the deck, they turn towards the closest ones that they can see, which would be one turning towards Tekwe, and one actually looking down at Angela on the center deck. And immediately, they both brandish guns and point at all of you. And how we shall end tonight is rolling initiative for next time.
Oh, shoot!
Everybody can roll initiative.
I regret putting my melee character on the bottom.
I was thinking the same thing, because I was like, Nevalier would... The thinking is start from the bottom deck, go clean everything from the bottom all the way up, and that way you don't have to track your feet over the stuff you just cleaned.
Exactly what I thought. That's exactly what fucking Button thought. Efficiency. Efficiency is gonna get us killed. And they rolled
Man, I'm kind of glad the night's over, because these rolls Man.
are poor.
Oof. I miss Silver's initiative bonus.
Just looking back through here, I think I only rolled above a 10 once. And it was a 13.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Don't worry, at least these two didn't roll very good either.
God, all these initiative rolls are so bad.
My roll is
We're
at
all
14.
caught off guard, even the bad guys.
Everyone's like, it's like, all right, combat's starting. Everyone just farts and trips over themselves.
Their fucking gun slips out of their hand for a second.
Okay, Angela at a
I didn't plug in my
13.
portrait.
Just roll again and I'll take your first one.
Yeah.
Oh, man. A 23 is what you roll, of course it is.
Oh.
Yeah, of course it's a crit.
Yeah, of course.
Face sad.
Of course. I was like, no, don't roll to make a sad Z. Just right click on the token, add the turn.
Don't roll, it's gonna make us sad.
I
No, wait,
knew
no,
it.
please. Crit.
Okay. So there we go.